Growing up, I drank the Kool-Aid of my parents' and community's beliefs. I made that belief system more important than my own needs and happiness. Looking back, I can't fault anyone for that, not even quote-unquote God. I now have clarity in decisions and choices I make. I'm fully engaged in finding joy in my life, in my own way, without the influence and construct of others. This is an uplifting discussion from there to now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kool-Aid family outside the box. Of course, I bring a beautiful mother and advocate for queer families, queer people, everything queer, all of the above.
Yep.
And you wrote a beautiful article in the Salt Lake Tribune?
I did.
That is amazing. And some of your posts are absolutely eloquent and well-worded and beautiful. And I think maybe you should just consider going into writing.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that.
And I mean, you did work for the Spectrum at one point.
I did. I actually graduated in broadcast journalism.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is so exciting. I love it.
So writing comes easy. It's just a matter of the discipline to actually make it happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you came to mind when I started this KoolAid podcast because I know that you have really just been helping people break outside of mold boxes, paradigms, perceptions. And I know that you're an amazing mom too.
Oh, thank you.
Because I've seen you in action and how absolutely loving and caring you are.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Well, I just love it because I see you as an example because motherhood is not easy.
It's not. And honestly, it boils down to how can I make my own child shine with the gifts that they were born with and not try to shove them into what we want them to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that because I was the oldest child of 7. Mm-hmm. And so that mantle was heavy on me to perform a certain way.
Totally.
And I took it on because I didn't know any different.
I was the oldest as well.
Okay.
I felt that same way.
Yeah. So I guess maybe it's more prevalent in our awarenesses with our children on allowing them to blossom and be who they are. Because
I think we had those expectations placed on us. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that to my children. I really want to see who they are and encourage that versus trying to make them like a little mini me. Which I see that happen so often.
Right.
Yeah.
And when did that awareness come to you?
As my children started to get older and kind of find their passion and their gifts and their talents, my oldest in particular is an artist. And so once I saw that they had that gift, I was like, okay, great. All of their friends are going into ballet and cheerleading and doing the things that a lot of girls here do, which is fantastic if that's their passion. But Sid's always been very unconventional. They've always dressed unconventional. They are quirky and artistic. And that was actually really cool to see because there's just not a lot of kids like that. And so I just wanted to really encourage that. So we got them into the art high school. At the time it was Tuacahn, and then it switched over to Utah Arts Academy. And just that switch just absolutely ramped up their creativity. They were in an environment that encouraged that versus trying to make them fit into a mold where they didn't fit.
Which is a traditional school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Olivia's struggling.
Yeah.
And she says she's bisexual and she's had a couple of girlfriends and she's really struggled being in a traditional school setting. She's really tried to find herself. But, you know, she's half Black, half Samoan living in St. George, Utah, which is
queer.
Yeah, and predominantly white.
Yeah, that's hard.
And so, I actually took her on a tour of Utah Arts Academy because I did that with Dixie Leadership. And I told Olivia, you've got to go.
Is she thinking about it?
Oh, we applied.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, hopefully she'll get in next year.
Ava's going to go next year.
Oh, no way. That'll be amazing.
I know.
Maybe they could be carpool buddies because by that time, Olivia will hopefully be a responsible driver.
Okay, that
with
would
a
be
driver's
fantastic.
license. Okay, now we've got that coordinated.
Yay. Done.
So when did you see your family start to transition? Because obviously you have come from a multi-generational family in the LDS community from northern Utah.
Yeah, I grew up in Salt Lake. I'm 5th generation Mormon.
The Kool-Aid was like Jell-O up there.
I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah, the green Jell-O.
Yeah, it's thick as fuck.
Yeah. So I had a lot, speaking of expectations placed, I was expected to, get married in the temple, start cranking out children. And I've always been, I guess you could call it stubborn, independent. Like I really wanted to do things my own way. So literally I was the last of all my friends to get married. I was almost 27, didn't have my first child till 28, which anywhere else in the country is very normal. But here in Utah, everybody was just like, what's wrong with her? You know, why is she getting married so late? But I wanted to finish school and go to college, which I did. I graduated from the U up there.
Amazing.
And then I got a fantastic job where I got to just travel all over the place and just really kind of find out who I was first. I think that's so important before you pick a partner. When you know yourself, then you can find out a partner that actually matches your, you know, your personality, your style, like what you want to do in life.
Right.
But I think these kids who get married so stinking young, they don't even know who they are yet.
Right.
And their brains aren't even fully formed. Which, no shade, I get it. It's our culture. Like people just do that. But I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm just not. But I did hang on to the church. But I want to say more nuanced, more progressive. I wasn't super orthodox. I didn't see in black and white.
Did you feel it as a security blanket?
I felt it as a weight on my shoulders. It didn't provide peace to me. And I was so afraid. I was so afraid of walking away because of the pain I knew it would cause my family. There was a lot of pressure. And I think that's what kept me in for as long as I did. Wasn't necessarily, even though I did believe deep down that there was some truth there, it wasn't resonating the older I got. I feel like when a lot of people get to midlife, they sort of reevaluate a lot of things. And it was keeping me small. I wanted to expand and I wanted to I just saw this big world out there of ideas, and I just was reading and listening to books and just getting all these cool ideas. And I'm like, I feel like I'm just trapped in this little box that's feeling very restrictive. I'm like, I need to get out of this box. And then probably around 10 years ago, my husband, who also grew up in the church, he started to discover some of like the, I don't know, like I guess the truth claims that the church makes were not true. And in his mind, it was more of like a betrayal that he just couldn't overcome because he felt like he'd been lied to. And so that was his reason for stepping away. And honestly, it was tough, but I also understood how important it was for me to hold space for his decision and not shame or judge him or make him feel like most Mormons feel when they step away. You know, like the shunning and the...
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, like making them feel less than.
You're going to hell.
You're actually growing. That should be encouraged.
Absolutely. We should be questioning everything.
Right?
And I understand this because I remember growing up LDS, and when you're in the community, like steeped in it, they're always saying, don't read anti-Mormon literature because it's bad. It's so evil. Something horrible is going to happen to you. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I can't even like open up a website and read it. Oh my God, what's going to happen to me?
Right.
And now when I look back,
fear and the shame that keeps you controlled. And,
and when there is fear used to control and manipulate, I think that should be a very telltale signal
of an unhealthy organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like I'm able to now embrace the paradox of the good parts of Mormonism. As I was growing up, it provided safety, community, belonging, guidance. Like it kept me safe then. What I think when you're younger, you do need more guidance. You kind of need more boundaries.
Right.
So I think that there can be elements of Mormonism when you're younger that are beneficial.
Right.
In addition to harmful. There can be both and, right? So I don't ever want to, I think the Mormon people are the best people. The people are amazing. The organization itself is problematic. So I think if we can kind of separate that, because I never want, when I post anything online and I kind of share our experience of stepping away, I never want my believing friends or family to feel like I'm attacking them. I'm attacking the beliefs and the paradigms that harmed our family.
Which were?
LGBTQ stuff. Gosh, where to begin? Mainly that, but
I read one of your posts, and you said, and you have it pinned on the top page of your Facebook.
yeah,
And you talk about how, was it Dallin H. Oaks that was speaking?
yeah,
And you're at this young women's event that was perfect, because that's how it is, right? Women are running around making everything so perfect and pretty, and then the men come in, and it's like that happens, and then the women clean up.
right. Right. I was in the Stake Relief Society presidency at the time, and we had planned this big, it was the women's conference. You know how they have those like during general conference?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was during that. So it was October of 2019. And, you know, we had prepared for months and did these big layouts with tablecloths and all these desserts and stuff. So we were going to have a dessert social after the event. Mm-hmm. So Sid had just come out 4 weeks prior to that. And I was kind of frozen. Like, I'm starting to see now, like through different eyes and hear through different ears. And I'm recognizing how problematic it is. And Sid is in seminary at the time, their first year of seminary. And they would come home, or they would send me these texts of like the stuff that they're teaching. And like Sid's sharing how harmful it feels and how hurtful and how broken it makes them feel. And so all of this is kind of simmering under the surface, right? And then Oak starts to speak, and he always rails against the LGBTQ community. And he, true to form, went right after them. And it was like I just had this visceral rejection to his words. It was like, absolutely not. You are not going to bully my child. I won't stand here and let you do that. And I will not participate in an organization that's going to do that to my child. And I literally that night left the chapel, 2019 of October, like October of 2019. That was the last time I set foot in a church. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I won't support it. It's harming my kid. Our whole family isn't safe here.
Right.
And so we had some discussions with our 2 younger kids who were still participating. And I really feel like it was important for them to make the decision of what they wanted to do, not us to make it for them. And so we had this conversation. I'll never forget. Let's see, this was 5 years ago. So Mitchell was 11. Ava was probably 8 and had just gotten baptized. So all they know is their little neighbors and their church family and primary and
The culture.
like that's all they've ever known. And so we have this conversation, and we're sharing kind of what happened at that event and why we feel like we need to step away in order to protect Sid. And we were at the dinner table, and these little, thoughtful, brilliant humans, it makes me cry every time I tell the story. We told them, we just don't feel like it's a safe place. And they thought about it for probably less than a minute. And Mitchell says, if the church isn't a safe place for Sid, it's not safe for us. Basically, we're a package deal. We're a family. Like if we go together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They're amazing. Honestly, kids get it.
Yeah. I think this generation, they're a lot more sensitive to and open, receptive.
Well, not only are they all those things you just said, but they're not buying that queer people are inherently bad or
Something's wrong with them.
they're just not, because so many of their friends are out and visible, and they're just our friends. And so they're hearing these messages that don't coincide with their lived experience, and they're not having it.
Right.
And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a journey, but it's been tough with my family. I respect my parents and I love them. And we just don't see eye to eye on this at all. But we just do our best to still be a family, and I respect their beliefs, and I hope that they can respect my decision that I am protecting my family the best way I know how.
And how are they with Sid?
They're great to Sid, but there's never any depth to the conversations, if that makes sense. Like, they're not very curious about who Sid's dating or their newest tattoo, or you know what I mean? It's just kind of very surface, which is fine. I know in Mormon culture, like hard conversations are just not something that we learned how to do.
Yeah.
So I don't fault
There's
them.
no depth.
No, there's no depth. So I feel like when I'm with them, of course I love them. Of course they've done the best that they could have done with the tools that they had. So I give them grace. But at the same time, like, it's all very surface. Like, it's a mile wide and an inch deep.
Right.
Yeah.
Because so much is covered up and so much is not discovered. We are not given permission to go deep and to go into those dark places because we're told we have to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And we have to be light. We have to be bright. We have to be smiley.
So there's always this mask of like, everything's fine.
Absolutely. And that is a whole nother topic.
It is.
That just brings on so many troublesome things to all of our expectations and realities, honestly.
Yeah, because that's not reality. That's
It's
not even
not.
attainable.
Yeah.
So the more I've been living like just a fully authentic life for the past, 5+ years, I can honestly say like I've never been happier because I am who I am in every room I walk in. Mm-hmm. And I think authenticity begets authenticity. So you attract people who are in that same space.
Absolutely.
And it's just been lovely. It's been a great journey, even though it was so, so painful. It's like having that like, what do you call it? Dark night of the soul, right?
Yeah.
Like those who make it through that fire are just the best humans because they have so much empathy and compassion for suffering.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't turn away from it. Yeah.
I remember when I first came to your house, it was a dinner party. It was maybe 1.5 years or 2 years ago.
Oh, maybe it was Mark's birthday.
Was it Mark's
His
birthday?
50th.
I think so.
Because then, what's her name?
I brought my friend Nicole with me.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So Sid comes into the kitchen and grabs some food, and this is me. I literally did a double take because there was something, and I was trying to put my finger on it, otherworldly about Sid in this very ethereal way. Very non-human, actually, was kind of the energy I was picking up
Oh, that's interesting.
from Sid, and it was just magical.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about Sid, I had really not gotten to know your family that deeply yet. And and I go back to that and think about it all the time and just how special Sid is, really.
Sid is very special.
And the courage that it takes also.
Sid has never once like tried to hide who they are, which I think we can all learn a lot from. Yeah.
That is amazing. I feel
I
like
know.
my daughter does the same. She's really stepped into her boldness.
I've seen that with her
Yeah.
in the few interactions that I've had.
And
Yeah.
she's really stepped into her authenticity and really exploring her sexuality. And, a lot of kids in her generation, they're all talking about it. They're all talking about what sexuality is and how they assign themselves and fit into it and what feels right for them and what fits and what doesn't. And I think that's a really great exploration, a really great self-exploration. And then I feel like it really fosters more openness and acceptance and understanding and well-roundedness, really.
Yeah. Well, and to be able to figure out, like to have those normative experiences in your teen years and to kind of find who you are and how you identify versus marrying a person that maybe you aren't attracted to. And then 10 years later, you blow up your marriage. And you know what I mean? Like rather to figure that out while the stakes are low, right? When you're younger and just kind of explore and see like what feels right. And then live the rest of your life in an authentic way versus hiding, stifling that, pushing it all down, not having the ability or the safety, I guess, to be able to explore that part of yourself. I think, in my work with the queer community, there are so many people that for years hid their true selves, painfully so. And it's heartbreaking. And so the more I just encourage these young kids to just keep on going for it, like figure out who you are, embrace who you are, don't hide it.
Yeah, be open.
Yes. Yeah.
Be accepting.
I know. And I know it's tough because that's easy for me to sit here and say as a straight cisgender, it's easy for me to just be who I am. there has to be a relative expectation of safety for those kids. You know, some are in really, really unsafe environments where they have to hide who they are for safety reasons. And that's valid too.
Yeah.
But that breaks my heart. Like, I'm just always pushing for parents to be more willing to really allow their children to just find out who they are and be who they are,
And
even if
blossom
it
into
doesn't
who they are.
fit into the system that you want it to.
The mold.
Your kid is who your kid is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is a tough role to play as a parent as well.
I know.
I caught myself when my kids were little placing expectations on them and goals and aspirations. And I caught myself. I'm like, what am I doing? This doesn't serve my children.
Well, because that was not really modeled. Like, that's something that I've had to learn as a parent to fully allow my kids to figure out who they are and not me guiding them. Mm-hmm. Of course, you guide them as a parent, keep them safe, do the things that parents do, but you never want to, just in my experience, like when Sid would say, I want to go take painting lessons. I'm like, fantastic. All of their friends were doing carpool to gymnastics. They're like, I want to do painting. I'm like, why would I not take you to painting? That's what you're interested in doing. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's really important for parents to reflect on the heaviness of their expectations on their children and just kind of take a step back and let them figure out who they are. And just when you see them figure it out, they soar. Mm-hmm. Like Mitchell is in the tech school, brand new tech high school.
Right. I remember talking getting him into it. The first.
He has found his like passion. He's like a cybersecurity hacker genius. Like, he's got it all figured out, but he never would have had that opportunity in traditional school.
Yeah.
So it's like, find your kid's passion, encourage it, and just watch them soar.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Everything that we have subscribed to, these structures we've subscribed to, are no longer working.
No.
And I see it with the institution of marriage. I see that with religion. I see it with familial structures, our education system.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Like the one size fits all approach.
It does
It's
not.
not working anymore.
Yeah. And honestly, it really never did.
No, it didn't. But
So-
we just didn't have those options available.
When did these options start to happen? When did we all start to take the blinders off? Because I feel like there's
it's
a lot
been
more.
fairly recent, because
Yeah.
you've got these art schools and these tech schools. And I think traditionally, like when we were growing up, if you didn't fit the traditional methods of learning, you were just labeled as a dumb kid. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if Mitchell hadn't found the school that really encourages the things that he's actually good at, like, he's terrible at language arts. He hates reading. You know what I mean? Like, he would have been labeled, like a problem kid, like in a traditional school. But it's like, he's just not being like lit on fire by something that he cares about. So it's like, I think if you can just, again, non-traditional, stepping outside the box, right? Like, find something that actually fits. And I think schools are catching on to that. Like, we've got all these like alternative methods of learning. And I think teachers are more aware of the learning styles. And if it's not resonating with the kid, like, they can be more creative in how they help that child, like, engage. Yeah.
It's great. Okay, I want to backtrack just a little bit because I'm super curious. When Mark said the church isn't working for me and you were still going and the kids were still going, how was that dynamic? Because I have seen where it's really can be a struggle, and I see it, and when one is completely in the culture and the other one has pulled themselves out, how do you make that work? Like, what was your experience, if you don't mind sharing? Because I'm so curious, because I haven't experienced this, but I've seen it from the outside.
Right. I mean, it can go sideways in a hurry if you're not, like, we had a really good foundation of friendship, a great relationship. So our relationship was our top priority. Mm-hmm. And so when he did tell me, when he shared his feelings with me about wanting to leave the church, I mean, I'm not going to lie, the first night he told me that, like, the room was spinning. Like, I was in a panic, because I'm like, we signed on to this together, and now I'm going to have to do it by myself. Like, it was really, really, really difficult. And I grieved. I really did mourn for probably a good 3 months because it was a loss. It was a loss of the life that I thought I was going to have, right? But the more I was able to just be quiet and just allow him to share his experience and why he was feeling the way he was feeling, the more peace I felt. And I wanted to just validate his experience because who am I to say, like, you're wrong? Like, he actually was right. But for me, it just took me a little bit longer to see what he had already seen. So we weren't exactly on the same timeline, but I really, really tried hard to never, ever make him feel like he was wrong, or I never wanted to shame him or make him feel like he was less than the person that I love and adore. Like, he's just the greatest. So I'm like, okay, well, this is just a bump. We'll get through it. But again, when you're raised in this belief and this conditioning of like, this is the way, and like your eternities,
the only way,
your eternities are like in limbo now. And it's like, there's a lot of pressure to stay in. And again, pressure to please my parents. And so I think the reason why I kind of really dug my fingernails into the side of the cliff wasn't because I believed in the truth of the church. It was knowing if I let go, how many people I was ashamed of like disappointing people.
Oh my gosh. I completely get this. 100%. I just went to Seattle to go visit one of my brothers who I have never been really close to. And he and we went to Vancouver with our families, and we ended up in a bar at a hotel downtown Vancouver, just me and him. We're doing a date and talking and catching up like we've never done before as siblings, but now we're adults. And he said, Heather, when you left the church, man, it rocked all of our worlds.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I was the oldest. I was perfect. I was straight and narrow. I went to BYU. I did everything right. And I am an overachiever and all of those things. And he said, wow, that takes so much courage, because now he's not LDS and practicing. And one of our siblings apparently has talked to him and is really questioning it. But he said at that time, man, we were just like, what is wrong with Heather? Oh my gosh, there's something so wrong with her. And everyone was just freaking out.
Yeah.
And I said, I know, I was fully aware of it. And it was really hard as fuck, I'll tell you that.
Well, because there's this idea of like empty chairs in heaven, right? That you're going to be separated from your family. So while I wish my relationship with my parents were a little bit more, that there was more depth and more curiosity on their end, I also know, and I have to validate the fact that they're grieving what they believe is going to happen after
the
this
eternal
life.
family.
Yeah, like we won't be there in their mind. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't really know if I want to be there anyway.
That's so true.
Sounds like a bunch of assholes.
I really never could picture what exactly the celestial kingdom looked like besides, in the temple.
I mean, based on what they act like here, I'm like, I don't know if I want a whole entire eternity of that. I'm like, have you heard that new David Archuleta song?
No.
We'll go to hell together.
No, I haven't.
So he sings this beautiful song. He just dropped it a couple days ago. That was what my post is about. Just barely.
Okay.
Yeah. So in his song, he's like, if they don't like the way you're made, then they're not any better. If paradise is pressure, we'll go to hell together. So he's essentially just singing it to his mother, because his mother, when David told his mother that, there it is.
Don't be bold.
Such a good song.
You'll survive by doing what you're told.
Oh, Sean's going to get us crying over here.
Oh, it's so good.
And we can't choose, but the more you grow, you know the truth. And all I want is to make you proud. If I would run, would I let you down? You said if I have to live without you, I don't want to live forever in someone else's heaven. So let them close the gates. Oh, if they don't like the way you're made, then they're not any better. If paradise is pressure, oh, we'll go to hell together.
Goosebumps.
Right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, not to mention his voice is absolutely amazing.
It resonates so deeply with me because, like, like his mom. And like I told Sid, I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere that you're not. Like, that's so silly.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever we're going together.
Right.
Yeah.
I find that for me, when I left the church, I didn't think of going to hell per se. In fact, I was like, fuck this shit, fuck it all. And I was like this, pew, 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 pew.
Outer darkness, baby.
Let's do it. Pretty much, because
Of course you did.
I hit the reboot button. I was like, I don't know. Is this right or wrong? Maybe it's neither. Let's just explore life. And
Well, isn't there so much freedom in just saying, I don't know?
yeah,
Like, I don't know.
right. And
I'm not going to live for that life. I'm living right now and
be
be
in the
present.
present. Correct.
Yes.
One of the beautiful things that I have discovered in this journey when I hit the reboot button was that we are all perfect the way we are.
Absolutely.
There is
And
the perfection resides in us now.
Yes.
Let's just glorify ourselves and have fun and
You are so
be
right.
accepting and loving.
Yes. And for like the validation to come externally, like it always did, and like hustling for worthiness and all those things that we had to do to prove ourselves. It's like, no. We're good. They told us we were broken so they could sell us the fix.
But we were never broken.
Never.
No, we don't need to
No.
be baptized at this age of 8 to purify us and blah, 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 blah.
No.
We came out pure and perfect and we still are.
And I think the real work of leaving the church and reclaiming your identity and authenticity is just returning to who you've always been. The
Finding
unconditioned self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so our mutual friend Danielle,
Yes.
I was hanging out with her on Monday night. And I just love how real we can be with each other. And her daughter came into the room and she was talking about her college experience. And then we were talking about GE courses. And I said, yeah, I know. I went to BYU and the GE courses were 900 students. They were just overwhelming and huge. And Danielle said something like, can we all just pause for a moment and just reflect on the fact that Heather went to BYU?
I know. That is pretty astonishing.
And I was laughing about it the next day because I'm actually really proud and happy about that.
Yeah.
Because that means that I have done a ton of deconditioning and I have literally unlayered to the point where you look at me and you don't see something or someone or an institution or some programming. Because my daily practice involves deep diving into my heart center and saying, who the fuck am I and what the fuck resonates with me and what makes me tick, right? And so then when my daughter started discovering these things about herself, I was super excited and joyful. I'm having such a great time talking to her about all sorts of things that I feel like are taboo subjects because no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah. And how validating for her to just feel,
Hopefully, I think she gets really embarrassed at times sometimes.
no, that's like the best thing you can do for her. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, she'll look back at it and she does laugh. We have some really funny
But
moments
to
for
not
sure.
feel shame,
Yes.
that is such a gift.
And I talked to her and I'm like, so what are you exploring? And she, I feel really bad as a parent in the way that I brought her to Southern Utah from Las Vegas and she is adopted and she's half Black, half Samoan. And when we moved here in 2019, then it was less diverse. It's becoming more diverse in Southern Utah. Thank God.
It is.
And at that time, though, she all of a sudden is in a not ethnically diverse situation from Las Vegas to St. George, Utah. And she's grappling to find her way with friends, people, and all of a sudden she's aware of skin color. And I have sat with her and talked to her over and over again endlessly about her friend selection and who she's hanging out with. And stripping away the color, stripping away the gender, and saying, what are they like as a person? And who do you want to hang out with? And what kind of person are you? Like, what are you exuding? And what are you attracting? And what kind of people do you want to surround yourself with? And when someone acts like that, do you not like it? And so when we just turn it into the most simplest, energetic exchanges with people, do you like that energy exchange or do you not? And then you can change. Like, you don't have to have a friend forever either. Like, you can explore and get to know people and treat this high school experience as a social experiment because you probably will not learn very much. That's what I told her too. But this is a really great social experience.
It is.
And you will learn so much about people and interactions and just humans.
And yourself.
And how you respond and react.
So true.
It's been really fun.
Oh, you're a good mom.
Well, I enjoy teenagerhood way better than when they're little.
We're talking about this 100%. Give me all the teenagers. Save the toddlers.
Seriously. When my children were putting their own shoes on, I was like, thank God they can put their own shoes on.
For real.
I can't
you can
do
wipe
this.
your own butts. And
yeah, you can go to the bathroom on your own.
oh, happy day when they're all in school. Like
Yeah, and you have some alone time and you're like,
no.
This is me. Hi.
I know.
No one's touching me or clinging to me.
And everybody glorifies that phase of motherhood of just like the nurturing and the nursing and I'm just like, oh gosh, would you please grow up?
Mm-hmm. I was the same way. So it's very refreshing to hear that. Thank you.
I mean, it's just honest.
Yeah. We all need to be honest about these things.
Nobody talks about that.
They don't.
I know.
And I have friends who don't have kids and I tell them all of my grievances about being a parent.
Yeah. No, it
and
is.
They're like, thank you. Thank you for saying this to us.
It's so joyous to have these little friends living in your house, these teens. I mean, we just went to California. Everybody packed their own bags, did their own laundry when they got home. I'm like, this is fantastic.
Yeah. And it's fun to have conversations with them too.
They're so great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So fun.
So tell me, what are you seeing in the St. George community and maybe even because you're involved in the northern Utah community as well. What are you seeing in the LGBTQ community and what is there resistance? Is there acceptance? What is the trend? What's the flow?
There's a lot of work to do
in
Utah and all over the country. There's been a lot of anti-trans legislation this past session in Utah and in other states. It's very disconcerting because I don't know. What I want to say, if anybody listens to this and they're like, I just don't get the trans thing and I don't get the pronouns, and it's like proximity is fatal to prejudice. You need to get up close. You need to see the people that the news is telling you are, going to do something to you in a bathroom. It's like, it's all made up. It's all fear-based, and it's all for those people to get reelected because they're appeasing a base. So if they can see through that rhetoric, because that's all it is rhetoric. These are human beings living authentically and courageously. And honestly, they have more courage in their little finger than the people who just follow the masses. And I'm like applauding this absolute beautiful authenticity of my trans friends who have had the courage to be who they are, who they've always been, but they had to hide. And so there's just a ton of work to do with the anti-trans stuff. The queer community, I'm on the board of Pride of Southern Utah. I formerly was working with Encircle St. George as the, advisory board chair.
What's the difference between the two?
So Pride of Southern Utah they're both nonprofits, but Pride of Southern Utah focuses on holding out activities for the queer community like we do. It's usually like every other Sunday. We have like queer coffee. We do the Pride Festival here in September. So it's really to support the queer community and to help them know that there is a community here and give them opportunities to gather and find each other. And Circle's not that, it's not that different. It's just, it's an actual physical home. And it provides support services for not just the queer people, but the people who love them. So parents can get resources there and connect with other parents and kind of figure out how to best support their kids. A lot of parents come in just kind of with these glazed over eyes and they're just like, my kid says they're trans. I don't know what that means and help. And so they just come in and they're fully embraced and they have all kinds of programming for different needs, like, for the parents and the kids. Where they can meet with like-minded people and just learn from each other and talk about their experiences. And there's a lot of crossroads with the church, and a lot of stuff like that people are struggling with. So Encircle also offers therapy. So they have mental health services. It's just, they're both doing fabulous things in just slightly different ways. So, I mean, I couldn't support both organizations more than I do. I think they're both doing fantastic, very, very necessary work. Encircle sometimes, They have, open hours from like 3 to 8 every afternoon. So kids who literally just don't feel safe in their homes can leave school and just go there and hang out and do their homework and bake cookies and
That's awesome.
be with their friends and find community.
How many kids are you seeing coming out of the woodwork to go?
Oh gosh, it's just, my friend Lisa does Lunch with Lisa every Tuesday, and it's a support group for, it's not only parents of queer kids, it's allies, and it's the queer people themselves. So you get a group of 17 to 20 people, like at lunch on a Tuesday, and they're all just there because they, for various reasons, like they either want to find community, they want to have their experiences validated, get advice, and so many of them keep coming back and they bring friends, and you know what I mean? It just keeps growing. So it's been really cool. So the house actually opened, it was right in the middle of the pandemic. It was like October of 2020. So we were all in masks and we had our grand opening. So it's been open for about 4 years.
That's amazing.
And they have other locations up north. There's one in Salt Lake, one in Provo, one in Heber. And I think Ogden is opening next. So I honestly, if I could make a wish, I wish every conservative community had an Encircle where kids who feel unsafe to be authentically who they are can find people who they can be safe around and just be themselves, right? It's so needed where they can just go and they set down their backpack and they just exhale. And they're just like, I'm safe here. I can be me.
And give each other permission to be each other and be who and what feels right for them.
So going forward, I just see myself always being, people call me Mama Jill. I just have like big love mama energy. I just want to love everybody and make sure everybody knows you're always safe with me. You never have to be anything but yourself around me. And if I can do that for people that are struggling, like that's my purpose.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have as a parent for a queer child?
Oh, God. That's a great question. I know for every family, it looks different, right? I would say if you do anything, prioritize your kids' mental health. Prioritize their safety. Prioritize their ability to be who they are. Avoid at all costs trying to make them who you think they should be versus who they authentically are. And also get them away from systems that are not supportive.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you recognize cues? Because I feel children are giving out cues that might be unconscious on their part of who they are, what they like, what makes them tick, what their preferences are. So did you notice any cues like that?
Well, I'm not always perfect at this, but I've always strived in my relationship with my kids to have just an open line of communication to where it's like, if you're in trouble, I never want you to say, crap, I can't tell my mom. It's like, I need to call my mom.
Yeah.
So always just keep that line. Like there's nothing you can say or do that's going to separate me from your love. And just so that they know, no matter how they're feeling about their identity or their orientation, that if they share that with you, you're going to only embrace them and be curious and want to learn more and how to support them versus being too afraid and feeling like you have to hide from the one person that should be
the safe haven,
the safest person to be with. So
And a home
just
is a
be a
safe
safe
haven.
person. Yeah, just be safe and be non-judgmental and be curious and just make an environment where if your child is figuring out who they are, allow them the space to do that and encourage it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you seeing other parents? Is there a support group for parents?
Well, at Encircle, yeah, the one that I'm aware of, like I said, the Lunch with Lisa program, the parents can go and talk to one another about how to best support their kids because there's just fundamentally such a lack of education in this space. You know, people that have been in the church, all they've heard is bad things about queer people. So they're like, oh, my child is that. How do I reconcile? You know, there's all these crossroads that they have to navigate. And so I think having the support of parents who might be a little bit further on in the journey gives them that encouragement and that courage to be able to make those difficult decisions because man, it's not easy. Like, I mean, a lot of people's identity, their community is all tied up in the church. And so trying to unravel that, trying to unravel that it takes work and it takes years.
Yeah.
And it takes support.
I think the first step is to go to a drag show.
I mean, you're not wrong.
There's some really great places in Las Vegas and Miami and LA where they have brunch and drag shows.
It's so fun.
It is so much fun.
It really is.
And it's just like really embracing individuality and uniqueness.
It's so joyous.
Hey, your buddy here likes to DJ those drag shows here in town. I do.
Do you really?
I DJ some of them, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love them so much.
That's awesome. Jill, this has been so delightful in every way. Thank you so much for coming on to my little fledgling podcast.
I'm so happy to be one of your first guests.
Oh, you're amazing.
Love you, friend.
I adore you. Thank you for listening to the I Drink the Kool-Aid podcast. Join us next time. If you'd like to participate in this discussion, get a hold of us at idrinkthekooladpodcast@gmail.com. Now let me ask you, what flavor of Kool-Aid are you drinking?
This has been a production from a podcast studio.